screen. So now this so we have seen that from raw data we can get the structures, and from saves we can also actually analyze. We can do a quality assessment of those structures. Okay. Now once we do the structure quality analysis, we select a particular structure, and now it's not essential that we should manually edit all the areas or all the phi psi angles or all the overlaps within that particular side chain manually. Because what? Because sometimes you need to do that manually, but other times simply running a small step of minimization in the MD simulation can edit all these problems. Minimization, what happens? It is going to the protein itself. You can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the protein itself is going to going to assemble in such a way that it can break through those non-bonded contacts, through those overlaps, and get the accurate positioning of its atoms. And even after minimization, if that is there are even after minimization, if there some problem exists, then we need to edit those things manually. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, as you know, that homology modeling is also known as comparative modeling, right? Because
Yeah.
we compare this particular thing with various other templates, and we use the more template you use, the better it is for your structure. Because obviously, if you don't have a high homology with a particular template, more than 85% to more than 85%, then then a single template is not enough to predict your protein structure. Then you
Yeah.
require the help of multiple templates. And because what happens, that even though some template might show you that this location has a very great structural similarity, the other motif might not have, and but that other motifs template can be template might be different, and as a result, if you use multi-template, that structure is good. And now sometimes we can also do this and perform the same function of this raw data and by threading, not only from molecular homology modeling, but also from threading. And the functional insight of the target, these are then derived by rethreading the whole 3D model through the protein function database called BioLib. Okay.
Okay.
And this iTeser server is actually an integrated platform for this automated protein structure and function prediction. And this particular thing is based on, now in raw data was purely based on sequence to structure basis, right? You
Yeah.
give it the sequence, it predicts the structure of your protein. But this iTeser is based on sequence to structure to function paradigm.
Okay.
Okay, so along with the sequence analysis, it also gives you a functional analysis. And if you know the function of your protein, because of this structure function relationship, because it has been widely proved that two proteins, if they have similar function, they have similar structure, or if two proteins have similar structure, they can perform similar function. And based on this notion, it has been developed as a sequence to structure to function paradigm. And so like Robert also, this starting this iTeser starts from an amino acid sequence, and then iTeser, after checking the whole amino acid sequence, it generates a 3D atomic model for from multiple threading alignment, and it does some iterative structural assembly simulation. And it is due to this iterative structured assembly, the structures are far more better, because it does not calculate the structure once, but it recalculates and recalculates the structural platform.
Okay.
And after this simulation of the structure, the function of the protein is then inferred by structurally matching this 3D model with all the other known proteins.
Okay.
And then the output from a typical server run, it generally contains a full length secondary and tertiary structure predictions, the function annotations, and even the ligand binding site. And if this particular protein is an enzyme, That also gives you an enzyme commission number and also the other gene ontology terms.
Okay.
And an estimate of this accuracy of this prediction is generally provided based on the confidence score of the modeling.
Okay.
And this protocol provides a very newer insights and guidelines for designing this online server system for the state of the art protein structure, function and prediction, because this is for, and though but sometimes once but it's not mandatory for you to calculate and use ITESR only. The Robota also provides you the same function, but if you need to know about the functional relationship, then it's better to go through the ITESR.
Okay.
So there are several not several, there's a particular workflow through which this ITESR works, and these are generally divided into this 4 stages. The first one is the threading part. Now, do you know what is threading? Now, threading simply, as you can see, that threading refers to a bioinformatics procedure for identifying template protein from solved structure database which have a similar structure or similar structural motif as the query sequence. Okay, so that means in Robota, what it was doing, it was actually finding out the structures, simply finding out the structures and from the PDB sites. But in this particular thing, it only checks the protein from the solved structure database, but there is a condition, and the condition is that it also must have not only similar structure but also the similar structural motif. So rather than checking the whole structure, it also checks the small fragments, small domains. If any protein, if it has a small domain which matches with your query sequence, then it is going to take that structure of that particular domain into account. So this is threading. Okay, and in this first stage of ITESR, this query sequence is matched against a non-redundant sequence database of PhySciBlast, and it is done to identify the evolutionary relatives. Because if you can manage to form an evolutionary relative of various proteins, then it becomes easier for you to find out the protein which has homology to your protein, right? And because the closer the protein is to your then the greater the chance is that it will have same function. And by identifying these evolutionary relatives, a sequence profile is created, and that is based on multiple alignment of the sequence homologs. And that is then used to predict the secondary structure, and this secondary structure prediction is done by SciRed algorithm. And after being assisted by this sequence profile and the predicted secondary structure, the query sequence is then actually threaded through a representative PDB structure library by using another server algorithm, and that algorithm name is actually Lomet. Okay, by Lomet. And this Lomet is a great thing because this is actually a locally installed meta threading server, and it is actually not a single algorithm. It actually combines 7 state-of-the-art threading programs. There are it is actually it is built up of 7 different kind of algorithms. And that's why Lomet is a very good thing. It can function accurately. So and in the individual threading program, these templates are then ranked by a variety of sequence based and structure based scores, and the top template hit from each threading program are then selected for further consideration. And the quality of this template as alignment is then judged based on a statistical significance of the best threading alignment, and this is done by the Z-score. But earlier it was actually done by the student t-test, but now it is done by the Z-score, and we know that Z-score is defined as this Z-score is actually the energy score. But it has a standard deviation unit which is relative to the statistical mean of all the alignment. Okay, so that's the first stage we use on the threading. Now after your threading is done, so this is the Romet. After you give the sequence, this is the Lomet threading. Okay, it runs the threading and it checks whether this see this particular sequence. So it actually takes a look at this only this particular sequence, which is made up of only 10 or 11 amino acids, this particular domain, and this matches this particular domain with various kind of proteins. And once you get a particular hit, if you get this is the best thing, then this particular thing is again selected, particular template is selected, and then particular selected is again it is made to go through the quality assessment protocols, and after a while, and after that they are again they are again made to interact with the several other kind of other kind of proteins, because I am using this for this particular domain, right?
Yeah.
Only this particular domain. Like this, there will be multiple domains, and all of the domains are going to have different kind of PDBs through which they are going to have exact and similar structure, right?
Yeah.
So then after that, they are all taken into the structural assembly part. Now in this part, the continuous fragment in the threading alignment are all excised from the template structure, and they are used to assemble the structural conformation of the section that aligns well with these unaligned regions. And generally the loops and the tails are the unaligned regions, right? Because what happens, the loops are highly dynamic,
Yeah.
and obviously as they are highly dynamic, and they are going to have different kind of amino acids which are not going to align with one another, right? And these unaligned regions, they are built by the ab initio modeling,
Okay.
only the ab initio modeling, because the unaligned regions, you can't find any template for the unaligned regions, and that's why you have to depend upon the so-called the first thing, that is the ab initio modeling. And then to improve the efficiency of this conformational search, the ITESR actually adopts a reduced model to represent all this protein chain, with each residue described by only its C alpha atom.
Okay.
And rather than taking the whole side chain, it actually takes the center of mass of the side chain. Okay, just to get the approximate idea about your side chain information. Okay, now just a minute. Okay, now these unaligned regions. Okay, now these regions which are not aligned during this whole threading process, they will have a lower modeling accuracy,
Yeah.
right? Because you are performing ab initio modeling, and ab initio modeling is full of errors, right?
Yeah.
So the structural modeling of this region is generally confined to a lattice system of a particular grid size, and this helps to reduce the entropy of the conformational search. Now this grid, the grid size, and this grid size, it might introduce considerable uncertainty of conformational representations in the comparative modeling, and generally this particular thing has an error range of 1 to 2 angstrom. Okay, that means each atom might deviate from its original position by 1 to 2 angstrom.
Okay.
But it does not generate any observable effect in the ab initio modeling, because in the ab initio modeling the error level is of 4 to 6 angstrom. Yes, 4 to 6 angstrom. So this threading alignment regions, so they are going to have a very high accuracy, because these regions for which we have found the threading alignment, they are going to have some high accuracy, and the modeling of in this region is therefore off lattice, and the template fragments are kept rigid during the whole simulation, and this rigidity, it helps to maintain the fidelity of the high resolution structure in this region. And after this, the fragment assembly is performed, and it is done by using a modified replica exchange Monte Carlo simulation, and this implements several replica simulation in a parallel at different temperatures.
Okay.
And these temperatures are also periodically exchanged between the replicas
Mm-hmm.
so as to maintain a homology between all the different setup.
Mm-hmm.
But do you know why it is done at different temperature?
Because the proteins have different energy levels.
The yes, one thing is that protein has different energy bubbles, but another thing is that if you perform the simulation at different temperature, you are allowing the protein to unfold
Yeah.
and refold. Because if
Yeah.
I perform the simulation at say 50 degrees centigrade, then a
Mm-hmm.
particular portion of the protein will be unfolded,
Yeah.
and when I'm exchanging the temperature of the replica, then what's happening? Once I perform the simulation at 50 degrees centigrade, that particular thing unfolded. But what when I am simply exchanging it with 30 degrees centigrade, when I'm bringing that particular temperature to 30 degrees centigrade, then what will happen? That particular structure will again refold.
Yeah.
So this unfolding and refolding, it actually helps to cross the energy barriers,
Okay.
and that actually minimizes the protein structure. Because suppose your protein has been folded in such a way, and in the last class you realized that I have several errors in when I run the protein through the saves, right?
Yeah.
It showed several
Yeah.
errors because when the protein folded, it has made several kind of unnecessary interactions, which
Yeah.
results in some overlapping of the several overlapping of the side chains and all. Now suppose
Yeah.
when I'm so the protein has folded at like that, but when I'm
Uh-huh.
again simulating it at 50 degrees centigrade, that part is going to unfold.
Yeah.
Now if I am allowing the protein to refold again, then it is of less chance that the protein is going to make same kind of error,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it is of high chance
Yeah.
that the protein is going to bypass that error and is going to make an accurate connections.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why, due to this, the this simulation is done at several temperatures with several replica, and even the temperatures are also shuffled.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And after that, whenever you have the energy barriers, the protein has some energy barriers, right? We have taught about the protein funnel, the
Yeah.
folding experiment. These
Mm-hmm.
energy barriers are actually flattened by a hyperbolic function,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
and this is done to speed up the jumps of simulation between various different energy basins, because a protein takes a lot of time to move up the energy barrier, to cross the
Yeah.
energy barrier. Protein takes a lot of time, right?
Yeah.
But if I allow protein that much of time, the simulation is going to the modeling is going to take a lot of time.
Yeah.
Usually ITESR takes 2 to 3 days to complete.
Oh,
So if I allow it the ITESR to do that, allow the protein to cross the energy barrier and then again make a connection, it is going to take more than 7 days.
okay.
That's the time we can't lose, and that's
Uh-huh.
why the energy barriers are flattened.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And this overall whole this simulation that we are carrying out, this is actually guided by a composite knowledge based force field,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
and this force field includes several statistical terms that are derived from the PDB, like the C alpha region, the side chain correlation, the hydrogen bond, the hydrophobicity, etc., etc. And it also includes the spatial restraints from the threading template. Spatial restraints means
Um, like restrictions.
spatial
Uh,
restraints means the interactions between two atoms.
okay.
Suppose one atom, suppose atom A is making an interaction with atom B. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so that means when they are making an interaction, they are usually at a different. They are spaced by suppose 2 angstrom. Okay, they are 2 angstrom apart from one another, and they are making that connection. And this is the spatial restraint. I'm going to
Okay.
keep this 2 angstrom distance between the two atoms and see how much I can move them, or at what angle can I keep them while making that 2 angstrom distance, so that that bond should not break but their positioning might change so that the overall structure might be a beautiful structure. Understood? And they also keep these sequence based contacts predictions. Okay, and this contact predictions are also done by a different kind of algorithm. And these are all done partly because of the consideration of these hydrophobic interactions and the bias towards this radius of gyration in the energy force field. And this current ITaser procedure that you have, it is actually designed to fold a single domain globular protein. Okay. Now, of the conformations that is generated in this low temperature replicas during this refinement simulation, they are all then clustered. Okay, they are all then clustered into this at each location, and this clustering is actually done by a software called Spiker. Okay, and this clustering is actually done to identify low free energy states. You see, all these are actually they have different kind of position in this whole space. And these clusters, suppose if I'm taking this cluster, that means these proteins or these structures, they are going to all which belong to these domains, they are going to have same kind of energies among them. Right? So this part is going to have same kind of energy, this part is going to have same kind of energy, this part is going to have same kind of energy, and like this they are all represented. Okay. And these cluster centroids are then actually advanced or taken into account by this by averaging all the 3D coordinates of all these clustered central decoys. And after that they are again taken off the lattice system, and then a force field is developed, and then they select a unique, the lowest energy structure from this whole clusters. Okay, and they now they are not selecting a single or a particular structure. They are going to select all of the structures present at that particular cluster. Okay, and taking the help, and when I'm taking all the structures on this particular cluster, now earlier actually I was searching my protein through this number of proteins, to this whole number of proteins. Now my focus will be shifted to only this particular area of proteins, the proteins which belong to these clusters only, because these are the low energy clusters. Okay, and then we are going to again select the model and do the refinement. Then comes the stage 3. Now in this particular third stage, this the fragment assembly simulation is again performed, and that also starts from this selected central clusters. Okay. Now while the inherent ITaser potential, it remains unchanged in the second run also, there are some external constraints that are pulled from the Lomet's threading alignment and the PDB structures, and they are and generally the structures which are closest to this cluster centroids, they are identified and aligned by the TM align software. Okay, and once you align all these structures from this particular cluster through TM aligned software, you get to know which softwares are and which proteins are have highest homology. Okay, and then you perform the second iteration. Now this purpose of this second iteration is actually to remove the steady clashes as well as to refine the whole and the global topology of these cluster centroids. And during this second round of simulation, decoys are generated and they are clustered again, and the lowest energy structures are selected as input for this REMO. And this REMO actually generates the final structural model by building all atom model from the C alpha traces, and it is done through the optimization of hydrogen bonding network. Okay, so you see this ITaser has a It's really unique, right? Because this kind of
Yeah.
homology modeling based concept was not present in the raw beta,
Yeah.
right? Because it is redefining, reanalyzing, and it is doing the recalculating every structures, and that's why it is much more accurate.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the stage 3 for us, and now this leads to the final and the fourth stage. And the fourth stage is actually the structure based functional annotation. Okay, now you know what this means. By
Yeah.
taking a look
So
at the structure, it is going to predict the
the
function of the
fun.
molecule.
Mhm.
Okay, now in this last stage, this function of this query protein is actually inferred by structurally matching this predicted 3D model against the proteins of known structure and function in the PDB.
Yeah.
And generally for this purpose, three protein structure function library have been constructed independently, and it is updated bi-weekly.
Okay.
And generally at present they include a library of about 6,000 non-redundant entries with known enzyme commission number, and
Okay.
they also have a library of almost 30,000 non-redundant entries with known gene ontology terms.
Mhm.
And finally it has a library of almost 20,000 similarly non-redundant entries with known ligand binding sites.
Okay.
And usually taking a look at these three libraries, the enzyme commission number, the ligand binding site, and the gene ontology are predicted.
Okay.
Now the structural analogs of this query protein in this gene ontology library, they are mainly matched based on the global topology using this
Yeah.
TM align software, right? The TM align software which I used in this particular in this third stage to realign the clustered proteins. The same thing is
Yeah.
done again, simply to get the idea about which sequence is showing highest similarity with which sequence. And after this, consensus is derived, and that is based on the frequency of the occurrence of these gene ontology terms.
Mhm.
Now the structural analogs in this enzyme commission library and in the binding site libraries, they are matched with both the global and the local structure similarity.
Okay.
And this while this global structure similarity search is used for recognizing the proteins with similar global fold, the local similarity search provides a complementarity method to identify the analogs that have different fold but performs the similar function
Mhm.
due to the conservation of their active sites, because
Yeah.
that particular site might have a different fold, but if its active site is similar, then it is going to perform the same function,
Yeah.
right? So that is the idea, to check whether even if they have similar structure, even if they have different structure, if they perform the same function or not.
Okay.
And this function analogs from this global search results, they are actually ranked based on a conserved structural patterns that are present in the models. And this scoring scheme is actually measured by a TM score or by RMSD sequence identity, and also by the coverage of the structural alignment.
Mhm.
Now here this template modeling score, the TM score, the template modeling score is actually defined to assess the topological similarity of the protein structure with a value and is given a value. Now generally the value varies between 0 and 1,
Uh-huh.
but a higher score indicates a better structural match. So if the score
Okay.
is 0.989, that means it's very good. If it's 0.022, that means it's not a good match. Okay. Now statistically, if your TM score is less than 0.17, then it means a randomly selected protein pair with a gapless alignments are taken from PDB.
Mhm.
Okay. But if your TM score is greater than 0.5,
Mhm.
then that means that your protein parts have similar folds.
Okay.
Okay. And the statistical meaning of this TM score is actually independent of the protein size, because I'm not
Okay.
looking at the whole protein, I'm only looking at some fewer folds, right? Fewer folds,
Yeah.
and that's why the protein sizes of no matter to us. The protein size might be greater or lesser, I don't care.
Mhm.
And this local similarity search, this local similarity search also looks for the conserved motifs in the predicted iteration model.
Okay.
And all the candidates are ranked based on their structure and sequence similarity to the functional cavities in this known structure. And finally, the result from this global and local structure search are combined to present a comprehensive list of these functional analogs.
Okay.
Okay. And then ultimately you have your protein structure, and along with it you are going to have different kind of function, the enzyme commission number, the ligand binding site information also. Okay. Okay, so let's take a look at ITASER now. Acha, but one thing, okay. Let me send you ITASER link. Okay, ITASER is actually academically free,
Okay.
but it is not free for everyone. You have to have a what's that, institutional email ID. Do you
Yeah.
have one? Do you have one?
Yeah, I have an institutional email ID.
Okay, okay, that is fine. Then just simply you have to first register to it. Simply click on that particular link that I've sent you, and it's going to open up the structure. Now, just click on this registration. Okay,
Yeah.
just click on the registration and register yourself. It is going to need your academic ID, and but that's all. And you need to fill your form, your names and all, and it's going to open up the account. Now, so after, so do I have to register first?
Yeah, I'm registering now.
Okay, okay, just register. Take 2-3 minutes to register.
Oh yeah, I think I got it.
Okay, okay,
They
fine.
sent me a password and email address. Yeah.
Yeah, fine. So, this ITASER is a very simple user interface. Nothing. You only have to give your FASTA format sequence. Okay.
Uh-huh.
You only have to upload your FASTA format sequence, and then simply give your email ID, password, and click on run ITASER. It's fine. It will run. But there are several few options that you can give, but those are not needed also. First of all is the assign additional restraints and templates to guide ITASER modeling. So for example, suppose as I've already told you that if you perform NMR simulation of your protein, NMR spectroscopy of your protein, you are going to get certain connections, right? You are going to get certain connection. It is going to say you what which part is actually connect, or which atom is connecting with which atom, and these are the few information that you will get. Now, why do I require this kind of information? It's because the NMR is pretty accurate. It is going to give you the actual restraint that your molecule has. So if you can inbuild your this restraints into your structuring, then it will be much better, because you are beforehand you are telling your model so that to maintain. Suppose you found 17 connections. Now obviously a protein has more than 17 connections, but suppose you found 17 connections. But if you beforehand tell your protein this algorithm to maintain this 17 connections, so it is going to maintain those 17 connections, and it will be much easier for the model to find out the accurate structure, because it is going to find a structure that will contain those 17 restraints, right? And that's why these restraints are important, and you might also give these restraints. And sometimes people also fail to develop a NMR structure or a X-ray structure. Suppose they have a X-ray crystal and they have developed a structure, but the structure suppose was not good. And so what happens? They find some restraints, but they fail to have the whole structure.
Okay.
Now people now also can use those restraints from the X-ray crystals also to develop or model this particular protein. So like this, you can have this contact distance restraints. For example, this amino acid alanine 171 must be 2 angstrom apart from this Valine 239, like this kind of distance vectors. Okay. And apart from that, if you have any specific template, if you know beforehand that your this particular protein is a homolog of this protein. Suppose for example you are working with Archaea and you found a protein called HSP90. Now the HSP90 is a heat shock protein, right? Now the similar kind of heat shock protein is not present in mammals, not present in us, but that particular heat shock protein is present in bacteria. Not any bacteria, but to a bacteria who is present in the who grows in the volcanic craters. Yeah, the extremophiles. So some extremophiles they contain those HSPs. Now that particular HSP structure has been solved, but the structure of Archaea's HSP60 is not solved. So when you know that that particular is a HSP for bacteria, you can obviously use the template from the Archaea, and you can upload the template. You can specify the template because you know that this particular template is your template. So you don't need to perform the alignment, right?
Yeah.
Simply give it that. But if you know that yes, these two proteins have similar function, it might be a HSP60. When you have that kind of thing, then you have to do the template with alignment, because the alignment will only specifically tell you whether that is a HSP60 or not, whether that particular thing is a homolog or not. Okay.
Yeah.
And apart from that, you also have to exclude some templates from ITeSR template library. For example, there are certain templates that you don't require. For example, sometimes it happens that you know these proteins are not going to, they look like similar, they might have similar function, but it is not a homologous protein. You know it. There are several databases, you have the evidence. So you simply exclude, you simply type in the PDB IDs and they're going to exclude those templates from it. Okay. And second, you have this select specify secondary structure for specific residues, and this is where you require the help of predict protein or the Chow and Fastman.
Okay.
You know, if you remember the Chow and Fastman, what it does, it simply gives you the secondary structure, but residue specific, right? This residue will be helix, this will be coil, this will be turn, and this is why we require the Chow and Fastman server also, because you are simply going to identify each residues and you are going to specify which residue has which secondary structure, so that your structure calculation becomes much more rigid, it becomes much more redundant. Okay, got it? And that's why we have to each, and so even though you come to ITeSR, you might find that yes, Chow and Fastman was a waste of knowledge, but that's not, because people still use that server to specify this residue. Okay, and then simply click on run ITeSR and it is going to run the whole data. Okay, now usually it takes 2 to 3 days to run your job, and it is going to say, just have your email ID ready, and is going to send you a mail that yes, your ID is ready, and if you click on click on the result, and once you click on the result, you are going to get a web page like this, which is specifically tell you the whole formats. First of all, you are going to have the submitted sequence in the FASTA format, right? FASTA format ready. Now it is going to say you the predicted secondary structure, like which amino acid has which structure, and then comes the confidence score. Now the better your score, the more confidence your server is. For example, it's 9 means yes, it's a coil, this methionine belongs to coil, but confidence score of 2 means it's very low confidence, I'm not sure this aspartic acid is a coil or not. A confidence score of 0 means even lower, right? So this is the confidence score with which they can say if it's a helix, stand, or a coil. Okay, so that's how to read this confidence score. The better the greater the number, the more is the confidence. Okay, next it gives you the solvent accessibility. Solvent accessibility means which proteins are exposed outside and which proteins are buried inside. Okay, now how can you determine which proteins? Because see, you have the just under the prediction, you have under the number you have a prediction called 0 to 9. 9 means highly exposed residues, while 0 means buried residues. Okay, can you give me a minute?
Yeah, sure.
Just give me a minute. Yes, Shuri. Are you there?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Okay. So this they also predict the solvent accessibility, and you know the higher your score towards the 9, that means it is more exposed residue. Okay.
Yeah.
So if your score is, for example, this this methionine, it has a value of 6. That means yes, it is pretty exposed. It is pretty
Yeah.
exposed. But if you come to this, for example, this serine, it's 0.
Mhm.
This
Yeah.
phenylalanine, it's 0. This valine, it's 2. That means they are not exposed at all. They
Mhm.
are mostly inbuilt. They are mostly inside they are buried inside.
Mhm.
And generally, the sometimes rarely you are going to come across a particular amino acid with a score of 9 and 8, or generally you have 7, 8. But
Okay.
I see this over the whole thing. You only have this E and D, which have the 7, 8
Mhm.
score. But rest of
Yeah.
them, all of them has a score of generally 6 and all. Okay. Now they also helps you to, apart from they also help you to predict the normalized B factor. Now you know what is B
Mhm.
factor.
Yeah.
B
Mhm.
factor means,
It determines how flexible the
yes, that
particular
means how
molecule
flexible your molecule is, how much your
is.
molecule can vary from the original uh, position, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Now, suppose this particular it actually measures the V factor of each and every residue. Okay. Now any
Yeah.
residue with all the residues which are below this 0 or who have a negative value, they
Yeah.
are a pretty conserved residue, and the predicted structure of this residue is almost correct.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Almost correct. And any residue which are above this 0, which are above this dotted baseline,
Mhm.
the predicted structure is not highly accurate. Not
Okay.
highly accurate. If you say on the basis of accuracy, then all the residues below this particular 0 line, they are pretty accurate. Their
Yeah.
positioning is almost accurate, and it should be in the as it should be in the normal protein. But the
Mhm.
proteins or the residues which are above this, they have a very high B factor. So it's not easy to
Mhm.
place them, and in a
Yeah.
particular and it's not easy to position them, right, in the
Yeah.
in the protein structure, and that's why these residues they have a it's very difficult to predict the structure of these residues. Okay,
Yeah.
so by this you can also gather a importance, and you can identify which residues are on which domains will be much not so conserved domains with respect to structure. Okay, for example, you see this domains, this particular domain, that particular domain belongs to, if it's 308, this is 300, so that means this is, it is 350, so that means this is going to be 325 or something like that. So that means
Yeah.
these proteins which belongs to this from 320 to 330, they are, or 315 to 330 25, they are going to be are not their domains are not going to be highly specific. Okay, you can
Yeah.
easily say it. And next comes the threading template. So you know what is threading? Threading means,
It's just finding similar structures and
no,
not
threading means
yes,
not similar structure, but
identifying template proteins, right? Yeah.
hmm, can you repeat?
It's identifying template proteins from a pre-solved structure.
Yes, template proteins, but not only template proteins, but also to identify the motifs,
Yeah.
not the whole protein, but even the motifs. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it tells you that these are the templates that this particular protein has used to predict the structure of this particular server has used to predict your protein structure.
Uh-huh.
For example, this is the particular protein, and this has a normalized Z score of 1.7. Okay. Now, suppose this particular if you okay, when you're using this 5 FMWA, what is this protein? If you simply click on this PDB ID, it is going to open up that particular protein in the PDB database. So you can take a look at what this protein is. See, this is a polyC9 component of the membrane attack complex.
Okay.
Membrane attack complex belongs to the immunological course. Uh, so this means that this membrane attack complex, this is the particular structure. So after that, you again select this particular protein. Then this particular thing belongs to the ETS1 complex with stromolysin 1 promoter DNA, but it belongs to ETS1. Okay, and belongs to the Homo sapiens. And the protein I have used to predict is ETS2. Okay, so that means it has taken the help from its homologous or its relative protein called ETS1. Okay, then I have this 5-LLIP. This is the bacteriophage 5812K 40 major capsid proteins. But sometimes you're going to find that why it is not human, a viral protein, bacterial protein, why not human proteins? Because it is not searching the whole protein, but it is searching the motif, only the smaller domains. And suppose a particular domain might have the similar fold like this viral protein, and that's why it has taken this into account. And you can see their alignment scores. You can see their alignment.
Yeah.
And how can distinguish alignment? The things in black means this is your sequence. This is your query sequence.
Yeah.
And this is your 5-FMWA, the first one.
Yeah.
The membrane attack complex. Okay. And but see, most of them are in black. That means they are not conserved amino acid. Only the blue or the colored ones are conserved. See, R matches with R, D matches with D, D matches with D. These are the conserved residue that have similar residues. In the next 3MFFK, it has no similarity at all, right? See, this is totally blank, but it has similarity in this particular domain. See, in this particular domain, everything is colored, right?
Yeah.
Everything is colored. That means this particular domain has similar fold like this. This particular domain has similar fold like this, like with your query sequence, and that's why it took this particular sequence into your consideration. That's why it is using this, because it does not require to check your whole protein, but is checking this particular domain only, and this domain matches 100% with your query domain.
Yeah.
See by the colored residues, and that is why these are important. And that is why in threading you are not going to find the whole protein, but sometimes you're going to find only a fragment of proteins. And like this, if you simply click on everything, you are going to identify and get the idea about which PDB, which type of PDBs are they using. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you are not satisfied with the PDB that they have used, you can always initiate a second run while excluding these PDBs.
Okay.
We had a option, right? Exclude some
Yeah.
templates from ITESA template library. Now suppose
Yeah.
if I'm not happy with this templates, so I'm going to write this template's name, that please exclude this while deriving my structures. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what's going to happen, and that's why that particular thing is. And you can see that these are the threading programs that this particular server has used. This NF, PPS, FFS, 3D. The Lomet actually is as I've told you, Lomet is composed of 7 different kinds of algorithms, right?
Yeah.
And these are the algorithms, though it is more than 7, but these are the algorithms that this particular Lomet uses for this threading alignment. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what apart from that, you also have this score called ident1, ident2. Okay. So ident is the identity one. Okay. That means it is the percentage of sequence similarity of your template with your query sequence.
Okay.
Okay. And this what is identity 2? The identity 2 belongs to the whole template.
Okay.
Okay, with your query sequence, it matches with the whole query sequence, and generally that's why the score. Then you have the Z's value and all, and next you give the thing that we weighted, the top final models predicted by ITESA. Now these are the models. Now usually whenever you find a protein like these domains, it's better to avoid that, because no protein has this kind of long chains.
Yeah.
Because if you have this kind of long chains, it is easier for a protease to attack your protein and digest it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so usually this means, though it says that this is the model 1 or this is the best model, I'm not going to take this particular model into account. Okay. I'm going to reject it outright. The second, what it has this particular thing called this score. This is a far more better structure than this one. In the third case, you also have a similar kind of protein with a long chain, but I'm going to avoid this also. And this is the fourth model that you have, and ultimately this is the fifth model that you have. Now, just by taking a look, we can say that either it might be this one here, or this one here, or this one here, but we have to go through a series of other conformations to predict and which is the accurate structure. Okay. And each of the accurate structure is comes with a RMSD and a particular C score. Okay. Now the C score, if your C score is lower than minus 1.5, it's good. Okay, it's good. And that's why generally the C score is here. Now to more about the C score, simply click here. So this is the C score. Now what is this? It's a confidence score. Now generally it varies between -5 to 2. Okay. But a C score of higher value signifies a model with high confidence, right? So in this particular case, this has minus 1.26. Now see, this has minus 1.77, minus 1.98, minus 2.76 and minus 2.77. So among them, this one has the highest C score, and that's why it has been taken as a best model. But yeah, you know, the C score is not the rule of thumb. Even though it says that it should be the highest one, it's not that I should take that one into account. It can give you a rough idea to start. If all the protein has a similar structure, then I would have taken the protein with the lowest C or the highest C score. But since this is not a case here, I'm not going to take the C score into account. Okay. So after that, you're going to have this particular thing, this TM aligned. The TM aligned. TM aligned means it is going to align the individual domain with your molecule, right? And these are the molecule with which it has aligned. For example, if you simply click on this particular hit,
Okay. Shows the
Yeah,
motif.
yeah, it shows the motif with which it has aligned. But until
Mm-hmm.
analysis, I can zoom it, it won't be visible to you. Wait. See, this is the area with which it has aligned. You can see,
Okay.
right? This is the area.
Yeah.
So now it is not taking the whole protein. It is not showing the whole protein, only the aligned part.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Only the aligned part. Now these are the part that has been aligned with this 5FMWA. If I select this
Mm-hmm.
particular domain, I'm selecting this particular thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just wait. Yeah. Now it is going to show me the area. See, this is the area it
Yeah.
again came with which it aligns, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
can simply
Yeah.
click on everything and it can you can simply see with which part is your molecule is aligning to,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you can identify the motifs, the central motifs and all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if you simply right click on this particular thing, you can change the surface, you can symmetry, the
Oh,
color, the style,
yeah.
all of these things that I have taught you in the PyMol.
Yeah. It's all here.
You can perform the same thing, but obviously it is much
Mm-hmm.
slower because it's a server based thing. So the best
Mm-hmm.
thing is obviously to download the whole protein and then
Use the model.
use PyMol. Yeah, but obviously in PyMol you are not going to have, you can't see this aligned thing. You can't see the alignment because then you again have to download
Yeah.
each and every PDB and align this
Mm-hmm.
PDB with your structure. That's very
Yeah.
hectic. So just to check whether this particular thing has to you, it's better to check it in the web server only.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and okay, right. So I've clicked it already, so it's going to take a lot of time. Yeah. So in this particular case, it's 2BK1 belongs to. You can see the other residues that are coming up when I'm clicking each and
Yeah.
everything. Yeah. So next is going to predict this particular ligand binding site. What is your ligand binding site? Okay. Now, first of all, it has selected and utilized these residues. These are the hits that it has found. And suppose first it says that this particular thing, the ligand residues are the ligand binding sites are the 415, 416, 419 amino acid.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the second thing, in the second rank, it says that only 418 and 421 are the ligand binding sites, and the fifth one says that all these are ligand binding site. Now to see the ligand binding site, you can see a number written here.
Yeah. The
Yeah, that
number.
is the ligand binding site
Okay.
with 415, 416 and 419.
Yeah. Shows on the side.
Yeah, let me zoom it more. Is it 400%? See, this is the site.
Yeah.
This is the site where it says that the ligand will bind to.
Uh-huh.
Okay, if you select this one, then it is going to show you the ligand. The similar thing, it is going to show you where the ligand is binding to and all. Okay, and similarly, simply having this kind of residue, simply selecting and checking. You can, so if your protein that you have modeled is a protein, sorry, if it's an enzyme, then you are going to get an idea about the active site also.
Yeah.
Hmm? And these are really required because generally the active site they have a conserved
Protein.
structure. Yes, they have a conserved structure.
Uh-huh.
So if your protein has any homolog, then generally taking a look at taking a look at the ligand binding sites, it's going to reveal a lot about your model structure. If your model structure has a different ligand binding site, but if it performs the same function as that older protein, that means the model that you have created is the wrong one. because if two proteins, if they catalyze the same reaction, they are going to have a similar kind of ligand binding site.
Yeah.
Okay, so if they, so for a protein it becomes much easier to assume and check the quality of your predicted model just by taking a look at the ligand binding site or not. And next you have the enzyme commission number. What would be the enzyme commission number of your molecule and all, and that's a different thing. And next you have this important thing called the gene ontology. In the gene ontology terms, it has already mentioned that these are the gene ontology terms. And for example, see, this one says that this might be present at an extracellular space. This is a part of a membrane attack complex. This helps in the cytolysis. It's a membrane protein. It has an extracellular region. So all these terms actually says you something about this particular ETS protein. In this case, they are more or less right, because this ETS2 is a membrane protein.
Yeah.
This is a membrane protein, and this helps in the cancer cell progression. Okay, by interacting with P53. So that means yes, the function they have predicted is almost correct. But obviously, it is not a part of membrane attack complex, or it does not helps you in cytolysis. But yes, it's a part of membrane complex and all. And if you simply can check and click on this each residues and get to know about the different terms and what they are. Okay. For example, I have clicked on this particular thing, and it's going to refer you to a particular database. And this particular database, this QuickGo is a database of the gene ontology terms. Okay, so it's going to give you a list of the various kind of terms, what that particular term means, and what is its role and all. For example, the plasma membrane. This means the membrane surrounding the cell separates blah blah blah, and all the synonyms, the chart, and right. And these are the things that everything you need to know about this particular cell membrane. You have this kind of this is a database for it, for the various kind of gene ontologies. Okay, right. So these are the things you can simply click on it individually and get to know about this. And okay, and apart from that, and this is the whole consensus prediction of your gene ontology term. And what does it say? It says that your molecular function is the ion building, but the confidence score is 0.51. It says it's a protein binding, it has a protein binding domain, but the score is a 0.42. But yes, though the score is less, it is right. It is actually a protein binding molecule. And about the biological function, it says it is cytolysis, but it does not carry out cytolysis. Yes, it carries out complement activation by the alternative pathway. And I taught you about, oh no, that was a different, yes. That was the immunology course that I was teaching. So they actually I taught this whole complement pathway and all. And in the cellular component, this actually belongs to the cellular space, and it is a part of membrane attack complex that they can predict. Okay, and simply click on this result is going to download all the servers, including the models. And once you download the models, you can simply open them up in the PyMod. Okay. For example, and see each and let us take a look at the models first. So these are the model. For example, the model 1. This is the model 1. Let me upload all the model here only. Okay, so these are the 4 models that I have, or 5 models. So this is the first model that I'm going to reject outright. This is the second model. This is the third model that I'm going to reject. Fourth model. Now see the second and fourth model is more or less similar. Like they have more or less same, not exactly same. And they have a similar kind of trend. These 3 models, they have a similar kind of trend. And by performing minimization onto this any one of the model, it's going to you are going to get a whole macro model of this structure much better. Okay,
Mhm.
and then you can simply run the saves and all again to identify and see the quality of your model structure.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's what this is about. This whole particular thing called what is this? iTeser server. Okay, so people generally people and I also generally use this iTeser whenever we need to model anything. We refer to iTeser
Okay.
because that is pretty much accurate and but not always,
Uh-huh.
because sometimes I have found that all the five models are bullshit through
Okay.
iTeser.
Mhm.
Then I have to go back to raw beta and all to predict the structure of a protein and then take the protein.
Mhm.
The raw beta was actually able to accurately predict the structure of the model of that protein.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
so it all lies on the perspective and the type of protein that you are trying to model. So there is no
Yeah.
hard and fast rule that this is best and you should only do this here and not there. But it's actually trial and error method. You have to take a look
Yeah.
into various accounts, and that's why those servers are still here, right? Because if
Yeah.
iTeser was the best one, then raw beta wouldn't have been present right now. People would have
Yeah.
rejected that raw beta outright, and there are people who works at raw beta to maintain that raw beta server.
Yeah. Mhm.
And that's because this not everything can be solved by a particular server, and we require various algorithms to do it, right? To perform the same
Yeah.
function.
Mhm.
Okay, but still, if you have a protein to predict, it's better to go through the iTaser first,
Uh-huh.
and then through raw beta and all. Okay,
Yeah. Mhm.
okay. So I will ask you to run your structure also through iTaser. Okay, get your structure through iTaser, and we're going to see if any structure varies from the raw beta structure or not.
Yeah.
Okay, okay,
Yeah. Okay.
okay. So then we are stopping here today.
Okay, sure. Mhm.
Okay, sure. And I'm
Thank
going to
you.
send you the schedule of the class by today. Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Sure.
Okay, bye.
Okay, sure. Bye. Bye. Bolo. Bolo. হ্যাঁ বলো কিসের ট্যাক্সের হ্যাঁ পাসওয়ার্ড চেঞ্জ করে দিতে চেঞ্জ হয়েছে বলছে হ্যাঁ রান্না আছে কাজ আছে বলবি চেঞ্জ করবি হ্যাঁ কি আজকাল কি আইটেম র্যাপিং ছিল না ডলার ছিল চেঞ্জ তো করিনি না বলে দিই তাহলে হ্যাঁ ওই তো বলেছিল ডলার ফলার দিয়ে বসে বলছি আগে যে পাসওয়ার্ড দিয়েছিলে বাবু দিয়েছিল সেটা যে মাঝখানে ডলার ছিল ডলার